and dorm or BSD resident unit, which by Brigadier General Lenderman, the 502nd Air Base Wing Commander and the Joint Base Command Commander. Joining General Lenderman today are Chief Lantane, the Command Sergeant for the 502nd, Major General John DeGose, 59th Medical Wing Commander, Colonel Sam Fields, the Fort Sam Houston Installation Commander or Executive Agent, Captain John Dial, the Staff Judge Advocate Representative, and Mr. Richard Trevino, the 502nd Civil Engineer Director. Slide, please. Here's the agenda for today. General Lenderman and the panels will be taking this opportunity to brief you on the actions they've taken as well as the way that for mold remediation as well as BSD improvements. And they'll also be giving you the opportunity to ask your questions during the open forum. And during the open forum, the best to facilitate conversation, we have a couple ground rules. First, we want honest and candid feedback, but we please request you remain professional. Second, when you want to ask a question, please come up to the mic, and I'll be there to assist and help on the line. Second, we will be videotaping if you haven't noticed, so if you have any issues with that, please get with the PA representative, and PA, please raise your hand, and we will help with editing you guys out. And then lastly, again, we're here for your questions, so please, we really do want you to feel free and get your feedback. Questions? So why are we here? We're here because we want to hear your concerns, and the leadership generally wants to know, and wants you to feel free to voice concerns. So please take this opportunity to voice your concerns, and so that leadership can best with you. Slide, please. And with that, General Lenderman will now start the briefing.
Thanks, Major Bender. If we could go back one slide, I just want to emphasize a point here that we do want you to be honest, we want you to be transparent, and it's not attributional. If you'd like that, we don't want your name or where you work. If you don't want any of that recorded, that's why the PA folks are here. They can edit you and your personality. But also, it's not attributional. I know that was a concern for some of the folks that have come up online, that they didn't want to say anything or they didn't want to report what's going on in their rooms because they were afraid they were going to get in trouble or even get washed back in training. So that was something that has come up throughout our investigation and our inspections over the last couple of weeks. So we just want to introduce or emphasize to you all that there is no retribution. We can't fix things if we don't know what's going on in the dorm. So we really do want to hear what's on your minds today. And so with that, I am Brigadier General Lenderman. I'm the 502nd Air Base Wing Commander and also Joint Base Antonio Commander. That means that I'm responsible for Fort Sam Houston, Randolph, Jackson, and Camp Bullis. So a lot of you are also training at Camp Bullis, so if there's any concerns about the facilities or the dorms or the barracks or the ships up there, then please let me know. We're here to take good notes and get out there as much as possible. Next slide. So what have we been doing? All right, so first, the last couple of weeks, many of you are aware, you wouldn't be here otherwise, that there was a social media posting that elevated our concerns about the mold of the dorms and the ships and the barracks. And I just wanted to emphasize that this is something that my team, our collective team, and your leadership have been working on since I took command last year. It's not new to us that we have trouble with the dorm. We have HVAC problems. We have humidity problems. We have leaks. We have older facilities. We have newer facilities that weren't made properly. So these are the challenges that we are facing. We have been facing them for many years. Unfortunately, it's coming to a head right now. But it's an opportunity. And that's what I want to also emphasize here, is that this is an incredible opportunity for us to do the things that we've been trying to do, not only myself but our predecessors, over the last couple of years, and especially over the last 20 years that the Department of Defense has been taking risk in infrastructure. So not to get too far into the weeds about where our resources go, but we've been in a budget crisis over the last couple of years, and this is one of the areas where our department collectively has said we need to focus on the wars overseas, we need to focus on the weapon systems, we need to focus on the equipment for the soldiers, the sailors, the Marines, and the airmen, and we're going to take a little bit of risk here in this infrastructure piece. And it's only recently that we've said we can't take any more risk, and it's coming to a head right now as we speak. So this is an opportunity. I just want to emphasize that things are moving forward. We've got the also our education and training and also our chief of staff. So it's a tremendous moment in time where we can actually get a lot of things done. So with that, what have we been doing? So since the social media post was, I was notified of the post on the 23rd of July, and that very day we instituted a 100% inspection of your dorms. So I want to apologize for the inconvenience that has caused you in training. I know that it's not as easy for you to have multiple people come through your dorms and document, but it is important that we get a really good record of what's happening in each room in particular, because each room is unique. And here at Fort Sam Houston in particular, you all have an HVAC system within your room, which is challenging for us to maintain. We don't typically have a centralized system within the dorms here. That means each room is going to have a unique challenge. So it's important that we get eyes on every single room. So 100% inspection was accomplished by the 2nd of August, and then we started phase 2 of the inspections. So we had a general idea of where the problems were, but we knew we needed to do a deep dive into some of those rooms that were more considered a higher risk, meaning they already had evidence of mildew or mold or some kind of challenge within the room that we need to look at a little bit further. So we recently just completed that phase 2 of the inspection. So again, I apologize that several of you might have had multiple folks come through your rooms, but that's why. We had one phase that was completed, and we just completed the second phase. And in that second phase, we identified about 2,500 rooms out of over 8,000 rooms that have some indication of mold or mildew. So about 30%. We've been after the rooms we identified with the mold or mildew problems to clean them. We started cleaning them with an in-house team, and then we recently have a contract cleaner that's now going through your dorms as we speak. We're getting about 80 rooms done a day to get them back. In the process, we had to displace about 520 students that were in training. The majority of them were out at Camp Bullis. So those folks were moved into the hutments where they actually have enjoyed living in the hutments better than the dorms. Everyone has their own. And then the remaining folks were at Lackland. So we haven't had to permanently displace or temporarily displace folks here at Fort Sam, with the exception of the Navy on a fateful Saturday night. So I don't know if there are any here that were displaced that night when your HVAC went out. I apologize for that. That was a long night for you, and I sincerely hope that you're caught up on your sleep after that. But we did have to move about 700 students in the middle of the night, basically, because their HVAC was down. Not related to mold, but it is San Antonio, and we have a challenge keeping up with HVAC systems here in general. That's something that our civil engineer is going to talk to you about, our efforts to improve that response time for HVAC to go down. So with that, some of the common findings that we saw during the inspections were mold or mildew in our showers, our bathrooms, our air vents, and in some cases on your personal property. That's why our JAG is here. So if you have any damage to your personal property, whether it's recently or from when you first started training, you have the right to claim that damage and get reimbursed. So the JAG is here to help you with that process, whatever service you're aligned to. We have connections to each of your services claims process, and we want to help you get reimbursed for that damaged property. With that, we began immediately addressing some of the mold and mildew concerns. The biggest thing for us is to control the humidity. So when your rooms go down for HVAC, please don't be that strong serviceman or man or woman and gut it out. I appreciate that on some level, but it actually causes us a little more concern in the long run, because every day that your HVAC is down, it creates an environment for more mold to grow. So it's extremely important that you let your facility manager know, your leadership know. You also have a way to contact me directly. It's called a Feedback Friday program, and we will make sure that you or your leadership have that email address so you can notify me immediately of what's going on. We're turning those inputs around in 24 hours. So that's another avenue if you feel like you're not getting the attention that you need. There is also social media. It is out there. It's not the preferred method to notify us that your HVAC is down because it just takes us a little bit longer to get after it. So if you could use your work order system, your facility managers, your leadership, and myself, we can get after it a lot quicker. All right. So some of the other things we're finding is the HVAC system repairs. Exhaust fans are broken in lots of the rooms. So we've distributed those. We have another 1,600 that we're trying to order rather quickly. So hopefully some of you will see those in your rooms. If you won't see them in your rooms, you might see them in your hallways, because sometimes your rooms can't handle the load, the electrical load on the actual system right now. But we're actually have a contract of electricians coming in to help us with that problem too. So ideally, we're going to get a dehumidifier in as many rooms as we can, especially the ones that are able to handle the load. We'll be installing ceiling fans when it's applicable for the rooms that are more prone to be mold susceptible. We're replacing carpeting when we can, because again, this is just another place for mold to grow. So we're replacing carpeting with vinyl tile or vinyl plank. And we're cleaning the rooms. We're helping folks that may not be able or may not know how to clean their rooms or haven't been able to clean their rooms. We're helping them with supplies. We're helping them to show the kind of places where mold and mold is actually going to grow. So that's kind of our first line of defense. It's all the folks here who can help us keep that humidity and keep that garden from occurring. We also developed a remediation website. So we'll release all of these things. You don't have to remember the actual website. But they have everything that we're talking about now and a lot of other helpful hints when it comes to taking care of what we have, and also some health-related websites for you or your friends to look at. And we'll make sure that you have that for more information. So with that, I just want to pause for a second and emphasize the fact that this is my responsibility. As your commander, as your base commander, my job is to ensure the health and safety of each and every one of you, and I take it very seriously. So please emphasize, let us know when you have a problem. If you're not getting the help you need, you have so many people in this room that want to help, myself and being your #1 fan. So I encourage you to keep that communication line open. Please don't be shy. If you do want to keep it anonymous, there's always that Feedback Friday program that will allow you to do that. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to my civil engineer. He's going to go into a lot more detail, more information than you probably ever wanted to know about mold or anything related to what we're doing right now. But before I do that, are there any questions right now for me? Okay, is there anyone that is living in a room that doesn't have air conditioning right now? My night. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brig.
Thank you, Commander. Again, good evening. Again, my name is Richard Trevino. I'm the CE Director. What I want to do is just go over what are we doing, not just short-term, but also long-term, to address the issues in terms of the inadequate facilities that we have across JBSA. So my role as the civil engineering function, if you're in the Army, it's basically the Director of Public Works. That's basically my job. So when it comes to facility maintenance, design, construction, uncovered housing, those permanent party members, whether it's a barrack, shed, or dorm, those dorm managers, that's all within my organization. So if you're in an unaccompanied permanent party, for example, if you have questions and you go to that dorm manager or that barracks manager or that shed manager, you're talking to one of my staff. So that is an individual that if you are having issues, go to them. And again, if they're not addressing your concerns, definitely go to your leadership, and they will eventually come to me within my leadership. In worst case, as your limits indicated, you can do it also through the Feedback Fridays through an anonymous way. But what I implore you to do is don't live in those conditions. The sooner you tell me, then the sooner I can have my staff go out there and fix it. That's going to be key. Getting that open communication between our two organizations is going to be paramount. And if my staff is not doing that, and they're not responsive, I need to know so I can turn to Go Health to make sure they are responsive. Because you're my customer. And you're actually my most important customer when it comes to people that work and live on the installation, because that's my job. So although Joe is taking responsibility, it's also my responsibility to provide you quality facilities that you can work in and you can live here, that you live in. Okay? So we look at what we're looking at immediately. When it comes to facility, there's two parts of the solution. Facility maintenance are those things that we do on a day-to-day basis. So we can resolve the issues, no different than your house, or no different than maintaining your car. Changing the oil, maintaining that your car has its standard maintenance requirements, meaning that checking air pressure, changing out your air filters, doing those types of things. That's what we have to focus on. So again, what are the 3 big things that we need to do to mitigate or minimize mold or mildew growth? Temperature, humidity, and airflow. Those are the 3 big things. So in order to address it, the first thing we did was basically, when you call in a requirement, so whether that is an unaccompanied housing or a facility, we want you to tell us it's not just an HVAC issue or the HVAC is out. If you truly see mold in your facility, I want you to use that 4-letter word. I want you to tell me, I see mold, I see mildew, I need to know that. Because HVAC and plumbing, they're a higher priority. Well, now, mold is a higher priority. What that means is we treat it as an urgent requirement that we have to go and physically put eyes on it to make certain that it is something that isn't truly an immediate health issue. Yes, or no? It's something I have to go out there and mitigate right now versus doing facility maintenance action. Is it where I have a leaking faucet, or I actually have something coming down from the 3rd floor down to the 2nd floor, or I have water coming down and that moisture is creating a problem for the facility? Is it that critical? Okay, that's going to be the first and foremost. When you tell us that there's a problem, tell us specifically more what is it. And what I've done is we've restructured our organization in terms of our customer service to ask those questions. When they ask an HVAC issue, when they ask a plumbing issue, it should automatically be, is there potential for mold or mildew? So that's where you can help us. Okay. The other piece of it is that in terms of the preventive maintenance, that's incumbent upon us. Again, if you're not changing the oil in your car every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, eventually your car's engine's going to go bad, right? So that's my responsibility. That's my staff's responsibility to make sure that we are, as Joe Lynn has indicated, I'm changing out the filters on a consistent basis, that it do not get clogged. That I am doing preventive maintenance to ensure that the exhaust fans are in fact working. Those are the things that are indicative of what I have to have my staff do. So that's why that standard preventive maintenance is also very equally important. No different than your own household. If you have your own house and you don't change your filters and your HVAC, it starts getting warmer, you may think you may have a compressor problem. In reality, it's usually your air filters are just clogged up. And change them, they usually solve the problem. Those types of things. We also take a look at what we have done is, for the entire JBSA, we have dedicated manpower internal to my entire group, specifically for dormitories, barracks, and ships. Period. That's their full job. That's their only job. They will do anything else. Again, it's part of the preventive maintenance and the responsiveness for us to go to meet the demand signal to take care of the facilities and probably take care of our customers. So their job is that 100%. They don't get pulled off. They don't get to do anything else. That is their primary focus. That is their only job. So when we go out there to do work, for those if you have a facility manager, those facility managers will see my staff on a pretty regular basis. And that helps us go through that preventive maintenance cycle to make sure that I'm not waiting for you to call me that the building needs to work. I'm getting ahead of it. Again, that's preventive maintenance portion. Okay? Also looking at, so other things that we're looking at doing internal is, we have a lot of backlog of work orders. We have a lot of work. So I'll give you an example. During the summer season, we average about 400 to 500 HVAC calls a week. And that's a lot, but if you look at the work, if you look at the JBSA portfolio, I mean, that's not unreasonable, especially with the facilities that we have. Our infrastructure is old. Our infrastructure can range anywhere from 1800s to 1920s, 1930s, 1980s, 1990s, even some of our early in the 2000s. So that's the kind of infrastructure that we're dealing with. It's not all pristine, it's just some of it's historical, but that's our responsibility to work with those. So as we go through that, we want to make certain that we have the ability to handle those different types of facilities. So for us, your involvement in submitting the work orders is going to be that much greater. The ability for us to have those dedicated teams allows us to better understand that infrastructure. Okay? Now, how do you do that long term? How do we say, okay, I have an HVAC system that just quite honestly is just not working? I can use bubble gum, baling wire, it's just not going to work, right? There's only so much duct tape we can use. Well, that's the long-term piece. That's the infrastructure piece. So back when General Lenderman came and took command here, we implemented and developed a dorm training and campus improvement plan where that now tells us we're going to forecast every one of our facilities, barracks, ships, dorms, across the JBSA enterprise to say, how are we going to fix it long term? And that's an investment. So as she indicated before, OSD took risk in infrastructure, and we know that. But we're at the point now where we're pushing and we have buy-in to say now that investment has to be paid. And that's what we're working towards right now. So what does that mean? It means it's no longer just going out there and changing out filters. It's actually changing out data systems. It's taking the entire building in some cases, taking it down to the bare studs and fixing it. Upgrading the electrical, upgrading the mechanical, upgrading, making it compliant with ADA, fire, safety, the whole gamut. Because I can put little pieces of work every now and then, but eventually we have to do a complete whole house renovation for these facilities. That's a long term. So right now we have about 35 to 40 plus projects, anywhere from about 90 plus million. Long term we have about 200 million planned from 21 to 25. Factoring in every year we have a project, actually several, to deal with barracks, ships, and dormitories for JBSA. So whether it's technical training, whether it's permanent party out of company, or whether it's training facilities, whether it's DFACs, you'll see that in our portfolio. And we're pushing those because we have to make that investment. Next slide, please. So what we wanted to also do is, as we look at the long-term piece, we also looked at, as we did the inspections, there were things that we, within our particularly resident managers, our dorm managers, we had to go do a little different. So one of the things we're going to do is take our resident user guide and we're going to update it. And we're going to provide additional helpful hints because as we look to it, there were just some things that we were just missing. For example, again, temperature. Keep the temperature between 72 and 74 degrees, right? That may sound simple, but sometimes it's not. Where just reminding folks to, one, leave it on, even if you're not in the room. That's a plus, because then I can regulate the temperature. And don't put your thermostat down to 65 because that's actually a bad thing. Because that actually creates moisture because it's too cold. So when you see, if you go into your rooms and you see moisture around your windows, that's because your temperature setting is just too low. And we're not regulating that airflow, okay? So those are the things that we're looking at to provide helpful hints. Getting that ventilation, meaning if you have, for instance, if you have closets, open up your closet doors. If you have bathroom doors, if you're not using them at the time, leave those doors open. Open up your shower curtains. Those types of things will help just get that airflow in. Open up your windows when it comes to sunlight. Believe it or not, sunlight actually, prevents mold from, it's another inhibitor. Those simple things will help us go a long way. It may sound like, yeah, really does it help? Cumulatively, it actually does help. Okay? So those are the things that we're talking about in terms of just helpful hints that we're going to go back and better work with the facility managers, work with the residents to make certain that we are giving you the best advice out there and try to help us work it collectively until we can get the long-term fixes in place. Because at the end of the day, you're our first line of defense. If you see something out there, please let us know. I can't foot stomp that enough. That's going to be our biggest way to know that there are issues. Okay? Is that? Any other questions?
Good evening. Can I get a show of hands of who actually lives in a dorm or a barrack or you're the people that I really want to talk to. You're the most important folks here tonight. So I'm J.J. Jones. I'm an internal medicine physician. I started my medical career as a medical student at the old BAMC. It's going to tell you how old I am. 1987 as a medical student. So I've spent about a dozen years in San Antonio, stationed at Lackland and at Randolph. And I've been the commander of the hospital at Wilford Hall at Lackland for the last year and was the vice before that. I've got students in METC, so we have a group in METC, a lot of METC students, maybe some of them are here. I have dorm dwellers in Benjamin and Akubo that work at the Brooke Army Medical Center, and then I've got some at General Lenderman's dorms at Blackland as well. So in addition to being a medical advisor, I'm also a commander that is concerned about my folks' welfare, and so I will just say up front that I am very comfortable from a health standpoint of Air Force medics staying at JBSA dorms based on what Richard just said, Mr. Trevino, the civil engineer expert, and General Lenderman's team. So what about mold? Mold is everywhere. It's been around for millions of years on our planet. Outside now, floating in the air, if you look up KENS or KSAT, there'll be a mold count for spores that are in the air. So it's everywhere. So if you're walking around outside, you'll have a few on your uniform, and you'll bring them into your house. As long as your house, though, is not warm and really moist with a lot of humidity and leaky faucets or water everywhere, that mold is not going to grow. So if you remove the mold, the moisture, the mold stops growing. So everything that you heard Richard talk about and General Lenderman talk about is involved with, okay, let's make sure that we reduce the humidity. So in some cases, we may have to give you a dehumidifier and increase the airflow. So don't keep moist, damp clothes that you just took off from being outside working out or sweating, OCP like I have right now because it's 107 degrees outside. Putting that on the floor or in the closet and shutting the door, no matter how good the HVAC is, it may turn moldy. So remove the moisture, the mold stops growing. Mold is, contrary to what you hear in the news and kind of scary internet stories, in reality, it doesn't cause a problem for the majority of people. So, in the fall, in November or December, you're going to see kind of a yellow sheen on your car from the mountain cedar pollen. And some of you may sneeze and get allergies to mountain cedar, but others of you do not. And mold is an allergen like mountain cedar is, and some people are going to be very allergic to it and sneeze, itchy, watery eyes are going to show up in our primary care clinics, and maybe even need to see an allergist and maybe get some shots to desensitize them from that. So the more common things, if you're sensitive to it, runny, stuffy nose, kind of like cold symptoms. And frankly, if you were to come into the clinic to see me or any of the other providers on JBSA, if you didn't say that you were exposed to mold, we would probably just call that the common cold or maybe seasonal allergies. So one of the things that you can help us describe, the problem is to say, I'm in a dorm room and they said there was mold there, or I saw mold and they came and cleaned it. But we still wouldn't treat you any differently. Antihistamines, maybe something for, a stuffy nose, etc. If you have asthma, it can cause an asthma flare, but most of the folks that we assess into the military, the Army, Navy, and the Air Force, don't have a history of asthma, but some people acquire it when they come into the military. And so, if you had an asthma flare, that would be a little more concerning, but we can treat that too, and we can desensitize you if you're that allergic to mold. So thus far, we've had only 10 or 20 patients come in with clear symptoms that seem to be related to the being in a particularly moldy room. And to my knowledge, thus far, no one has come in with an asthma exacerbation. That toxic or black mold it sounds scary, but it's inaccurate. And so President Reagan used to say in the 80s when dealing with negotiating with the Russians at the time about nuclear arms, trust but verify. So I want you to trust me in what I'm telling you, medical advice, but I want you to check me. So on the next slide, give me the next slide, please. I've got some links here for you where you can look up, and so that I'm not blowing smoke at you that this is really bad. And so there's some EPA guidance that we've given you a link to. The single best one that I think from the CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control. It's not written for an infectious disease expert or even an old internal medicine doc like me. It's really written for anybody, whether you've had a flood or a hurricane that's damaged your home, or you just don't have a really good working air conditioning unit and you've got some mold in the home. And so it's got facts about it, and it'll say, get rid of the mold, and you can use a diluted bleach solution, or if you're kind of sensitive to that, you can use a diluted vinegar solution. And the CDC will say in bold print that there is no value for testing for a certain type of mold. There's white molds, there's green molds, there's black molds, and in otherwise healthy people, there is really very little risk at all, with the exception of allergy kind of things, and maybe, again, if you have asthma, a flare of that. The people that I get concerned about are people that have an abnormal immune system. So if you have cancer, if you're being treated for cancer, chemotherapy, leukemia, Hodgkin's, if you have a condition that requires steroids to decrease inflammation, those things put you at an increased risk for any infection, to include mold. If you have chronic lung disease for any cause, cystic fibrosis or 40 years of smoking, that can be a problem. But for otherwise young, healthy people, I told the TV cameras and the media a week ago that there are no young people that are otherwise healthy. There have been severe medical problems from just the mold exposure that we've seen around here. So I believe that the CDC recommendations and the guidelines are the summary of the best evidence that's out there. And I would encourage any of you to, again, don't just take my word for it. Go to that cdc.gov, mold, frequently asked questions, facts about mold or dampness in your home. Explain how you could, clear it out yourself and what the risk is. And don't recommend that you should send it out to a reference lab. We know what the typical types of mold are, and one type isn't worse than another type for normal, healthy people. So there are similar guidelines from the American Academy of Allergy and Immunology. And so the last thing is, if you feel like you've got any health considerations at all, whether they're related to mold or otherwise, use your health care benefit. And so we've got a permanent party. You can make an appointment there. If you're a basic medical trainee, so we've tried to cover everybody. My guys probably wrote this more for airmen. But if you're a soldier here, the Moreno Clinic, the Troop Medical Clinic, any of the permanent party, Army, Navy, or Air Force, just go. Tell them that you think your symptoms may be associated with mold exposure. And we've got a whole protocol written. And the JBSA is blessed to have a lot of allergy resources. The Army and Air Force's largest training program for allergy experts is at Brooke Army Medical Center, a combined Air Force and Army program. The two senior allergists in the Air Force are here in town. They agree with what I've told you, but again, don't take my word for it. If you have symptoms, go and see your provider. Check these things out if you have any questions. So I'd be pleased to take any questions right now. And if you have any recommendations about how to improve the Red Sox pitching, I will take that also. So I just thank you for all that you're doing. Many of you are medics, I know, and for taking great care of our patients. And again, you can ask me questions afterwards if you don't want to in front of the whole group here, or you can send me an email.
Hang in there, maybe one more slide and then your questions. With that, I'll turn it over to our judge advocate, Niall, and answer any of your questions about the claim.
All right, good evening, everyone. So my focus as the judge in this whole process has been on claims, whether that's personal property or issued military items. Those are the two categories. So anytime your property is damaged, incident to service, which in this case is incident to service because of capital storm, you're entitled to file a claim to seek compensation to replace that item with fair market value. So what we have done, I coordinated with all three bases, the 502 ISG, SFG, and the FSG here at Fort Sam. They've all worked really hard, Mr. Mitchell here, and several other folks on compiling data and information, not just for Air Force folks, but for sister services as well, to get a one-stop claim shop for everybody. So to streamline the process as much as possible. We heard a lot of complaints about it being sort of cumbersome to go in and file a complaint. So we heard that, and we tried to make it as simple as possible. So I think it was back on slide 4, the AETC mold remediation site that has a link on it. You click on that link, and it's the entire claim package. And that has everything you could possibly need for filing your claim. And there are three ways to do that. So one is online through the Air Force Claim Service Center website. One is you can mail in a hard copy packet. And the third way is you can go to your servicing legal office. They can either help you through filing it online or help you through the hard copy. There's also a checklist in there that folks work with the Claim Service Center to specifically for this normal crisis. So if you just follow that checklist, you should be good to go in filing your claims. There is a separate process, like I mentioned, for issued military items, uniform items, things like that. And that's an Air Force Form 659. I don't know what the equivalent is for the sister services, but that's processed through your chain of command. So you can download that from EPUBs. You can fill that out, process it through your chain of command, and get those issued military items. The Claim Service Center is just for personal property, so everything from pillows, blankets, personal clothes. I've heard somebody ask about a motorcycle helmet, a violin case. All of that stuff falls into personal property, and you can potentially seek reimbursement for that. The one caveat is you have to, if it can be cleaned, you have to try and clean it, with the exception of something that's like porous and sort of made of material, something like a pillow. You don't have to try and clean a pillow. That's just a little too difficult to determine if it's entirely clean. But something like a t-shirt that you can wash, something like that, you've got to give it a shot. If it comes out, it's still stained or ruined or something like that, then you have to file your claim. Some things are a little easier, like the motorcycle helmet I mentioned. You can probably just wipe that down, but again, if you give it a go and it doesn't get clean, you can file your claim and all that stuff. So we conducted 7 legal workshops across both Randolph, or all 3 of Randolph, Blackland, and Fort Sam. I think we ultimately briefed over 1,100 people, again, with great assistance from the servicing legal office in each base. And the biggest piece of advice I can give you is either go to that claims workshop or the claims packet that's on the AETC website, or go to your servicing legal office, and they'll walk you through everything. We've been spoken with them about fast tracking normal legal assistance clients. So if you go ahead and say you're the normal, in theory they should bring you in front of the line to make sure they get that claim process. The Claim Service Center says it takes about 10 days once the claim is actually filed to make a determination on the payment of that claim. So it's actually pretty quick too. And the last thing I'll highlight for you is one of the things we created with the Claim Service Center was a standard login and password to make that process a little quicker and easier for people, but that's only good for about 55 more days. We can only get it good for about 60 more days. You have a 2-year statute of limitations on filing your claim, so don't feel like you have to do it in the next 2 months, but just know that the information will change a little bit in about 2 months to reflect those updated login and passwords. So that's claims in a nutshell. Does anybody have any specific questions about that? Thank you.
If you're in training right now and you're not able to visit your legal office, please let your training leader know or your leader know, and then he can come to you again and do one-on-one services. With that, I'd like to open it up for questions. Anything on your mind or anything that you sparked your interest or things we need to deep dive into? The floor is yours. So with that, we have this microphone. I can put it right here, and anyway, just feel free to come on.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Sergeant Major Harwick in 188th Medical Battalion. I appreciate you coming out here and doing this evening. I was here as a student back in 1992, living in the building 1350, and there were issues back then. So a lot of these are long-standing, and I appreciate the way you described the challenges and constraints that have hampered our ability to get after some of these problems. So my question is simple. In the future, as you see possibly this issue being attacked, will there be money, this may be beyond us, that can be set aside to build new barracks? For instance, the ones that are like Acton Door, I've been those, they're outstanding. And I appreciate what's going on in 1350 and the way that's being upgraded. It's an open bay area, and it's a lot easier to manage. I always like being able to go in there quickly, look to the left, look to the right, and see people in it. Once those issues of HVAC and all are addressed, we can stay ahead of that. But some of the buildings, as you, like 2791, it just has problems. The HVACs have been replaced. That's great. I'm not rambling. What I'm trying to get to is that I just want to see if there's any forecasted future projects that will give the Army and Navy maybe new barracks.
Thank you so much for that question. I'm going to ask for our civil engineer to chime in there, but I completely agree with you when you're describing the challenges that you're seeing here, we're seeing here today. They're not new challenges. We have projects in the works right now, and part of what's happening in this particular moment is we do have a lot of renovation work going on at the same time. So that's one of our findings, is maybe we need to do a little bit more homework and strategy in terms of what bones we bring down so we have more swing space. It doesn't answer your question, but it does provide us more flexibility when we have things that break in the middle of the night, when we have rooms that are chronically down for whatever issues those are. So that's one of the lessons learned. And your question is one of the ones that my boss is asking us too. So his question is, how confident are you that this isn't going to reoccur? And then the next question is, what do you need? And so what we've done is we've developed a wish list of things that we want to accomplish. And we already started that with that dorm training campus plan. So now we've codified it and we've elevated it up to our commander in terms of these are the things that we need to pay attention to. And within our own community, we have projects on the hooks, but I think there's an opportunity to add more, especially when it comes to the technical, we call them technical training norms. But the dorms that we're having the most challenges right now are not basic military training over at Lackland. It's that next level of training like you have here at Fort Sam and at Lackland. Those are the majority of the issues. So with that, if I could, Richard, if you have any specific things that we want to address for Fort Sam in terms of the building projects that we have on the books or the ones that we're looking at.
Thank you, Madam. So when it comes to, let's answer the first question initially saying, are we going to have new construction? So typically right now there is construction going on for a new barrack as it is right now. So that is ongoing for Fort Sam. But I'll tell you across the Department of Defense, new construction is a little bit of a challenge because if it's not tied to a mission bed down or a weapon system, it's really, so like dorms, barracks, and ships are considered what we call current mission. So current mission, quite honestly, doesn't rank very high in the pecking order when it comes to funding, because military construction, which is that new construction piece, there's a different set of rules. But in the past, Congress used to be able to have congressional inserts that say, okay, in a dorm or a barrack or a ship, an unaccompanied facility was always a really good candidate. It was a small price and it was affecting people, right? It was their living quarters. Those are always great candidates to have as congressional inserts. Well, they changed the law that says congressional inserts are no longer allowed. So the MILCON is now tied to mission bed downs. So will we see something soon in terms of new construction? Quite candidly, sir, the answer is most likely no. But that doesn't stop us from at least taking our current facilities and at least renovating those. And in some cases, we're now taking facilities literally down to the studs to where we're not really putting that lipstick on the pig per se and say we're going to just do the cosmetics. What we're also trying to do is work with Congress to give what's called repair by replacement. What that means is it's just a terminology that says, I don't want to use MILCON, I want to use regular sustainment dollars or design and construction dollars, where if I have a building that we know is just horrible, I'm going to quote unquote replace it by building a build it on the installation. So it looks like we're playing with the different set of rules, but we're asking Congress to do that because NOCON's just not there. And it's not that we're trying to build a new mission, we're just trying to keep the existing one moving forward. But in order to look across JBSA Enterprise, all 3 operating locations, Fort Sam, Lackland, and Randolph, you are going to see renovations to those barracks and the ships and those dorms. You're going to see that as part of our program within the next 5+ years. There's always going to be something going on in order for us to renovate those facilities and eventually get to the point where I have the COOP capability where if I do have something go down, I'm not trying to figure out where I go. And right now, we just don't have that COOP capability, but we're going to get there. That's our plan. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you don't know what COOP means, which I didn't know at your age, definitely, it means an evacuation plan. So when the dorm goes down or the barrack or the ship goes down, where do you go? And so that's our ability to move you to another site as quickly as possible. All right.
Just one more question. In reference to building 1350, I see the workers there, they work Monday through Thursday. Will they ever work on Friday as well, or is that just not in their contract? They just can't be there on Friday?
So no, they should be working when they need to work, whether it's Monday through Sunday, to be quite honest. So if it's the contractor, that's probably the conditions of the contract, but they're not prohibited in working on Fridays, by no means. And if it's our own internal staff, for example, they work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Kelly King, who's my superintendent from Fort Sam, he pretty much lives here on Fort Sam without hesitation. But there should be no limitation from that standpoint, sir. So if it's an actual renovation project, the contractor has a schedule that he or she has to meet, and as long as they continue to meet that timeline, quite honestly, they will work the schedule as they need it. But if we need to accelerate it, we do encourage them to not just work Monday through Thursday, it's working to where they can accelerate it also.
I know there's been things that have pushed it the other way, just like the Task Force 51 that we talked about.
Yes, sir.
For a little while, so I understand all that. It was curious to me that they only work Monday through Thursday.
But we'll take that back to make sure that, again, if they look like they will get behind, then they will be required to meet that timeline. If it means they have to actually bring in additional crews or work in a couple of shifts every day, if it's 7 days a week, then they're required to do that.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Alright, so I'm currently living at the barracks for the permanent party for the soldiers that are E4 and below, and one of my main questions that I have about it is that through this entire time that I've heard everybody talking about everything that's being fixed and what's going on, I've mostly, you've hinted at the barracks for the permanent party, but it's mostly been about the trainees. I'm not sure if it's more of a priority for the trainees or if the soldiers that you actually have that are in the area that you need to basically keep this place running. That's my main question, because we have AC that's constantly breaking, where people are living in dorms that their rooms are hitting 110 degrees, and you say how with the dorms, how you can put the dehumidifiers in the hallways and stuff like that, but with our barracks, we can't put them in the hallways because the rooms are, there is no hallway, it's just outside, you can't do that, if it's possible to put dehumidifiers in the rooms that the AC has gone down instead, because there have been a few soldiers that are in my unit itself that have, they don't have AC for months on end because because like it just takes time because there are so many people and the buildings are so old that they just haven't been able to get to them yet. And I was wondering if it's possible to do something like that for our soldiers.
Thank you so much for your question, and I appreciate that, and I apologize if that's the perception's reality, but no, all of the dorms are equally important. If I've said training, I apologize for that, because it's actually the permanent party dorms that brought this to our attention in the first place. So we have equal emphasis on all of the dorms. So first of all, I'm sorry about that. And then a couple of your bunch of really good points that are embedded in your statement and your question. So if there are folks that have been moving in a dorm that's down for, or assuming a barracks room that's been down for several months, that's unacceptable from our standpoint. So we need to make sure that we moved you to a room, even if it's to a lodging room. We can do that. We have the capability to do that. We don't, especially in this heat. No one should be living in something that's beyond acceptable temperature. So please, I implore you, folks, please let your leadership know. We have a bunch of great leaders here in the room, and they're going to let us know, and we'll make sure that you're moved so we can appropriately take care of the room. Regarding the dehumidifiers, I can't remember which off the top of my head what our plan is for the dehumidifiers and the better dorms and the permanent party, but if we could add that to our priority list, we can do that for sure. But I'll turn it over to Richard to try to help break down some of the HVAC problems, but I'll speak from the commander point of view. And any of you that are here permanently, you're here obviously for more than a couple of months, and we need you to make sure that you're in a safe environment. So I would personally make sure that I'm looking at your work quarters, and if there's rooms that have been down, we're going to get you into a room that has an HVAC that's working, or we'll move you into lodging until we can fix it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. So, if you've had a room where no kidding, you've not had HVAC for months, that's obviously a big issue for us. So, if I can get with you afterwards also, we want to make sure we get that information. No one should have a room down for any more than a few days. That's just unacceptable. So if you're having those, the tech training piece, typically what you do is when you have those types of issues, you go through your military training leader, and then they in turn, they serve as your facility manager, and they let us, they work with us in order to submit that work task. That's different than the unaccompanied housing permanent party. So permanent party, you deal predominantly with, my staff, which is those barrack ship and dorm managers. If you're on the training side, the technical training side, you typically do that through your particular chain of command. It's usually your MTL or your MTI. And then they in turn will work with us in order to submit that work order. So if you have those issues within your facility on the technical training piece, definitely work through your MTI, MTL, and then they will in turn work with that facility manager for that building, and then they'll work with my staff. And what happens, because it's an HVAC issue, for example, it'll go to my customer service organization, and then they will let Kelly Keene and his staff know. And then what we do, because we have those dedicated teams, we will just dispatch somebody out literally that day if that's an issue. So you should not have to, if you actually have any facilities where you have no HVAC for months, and you consistently no HVAC for months, then just give it to me and I'll have it. We'll sit down and have a conversation, because that should not be happening.
Did that answer your question?
Part, yes.
All right.
Yes.
So let me add a little piece to it with regard to the dehumidifiers. So the intent, the goal, we've got 8,188 rooms across JBSA. The goal is 8,188 dehumidifiers, or at least maybe in the bays even more, maybe several. So what we're going through right now, one of the considerations that we have to look at is some of these buildings are relatively old and the infrastructure is not all that good. So what we're looking at is some of these dehumidifiers pull so much amperage that we can't actually put them into certain rooms. So what we're doing right now is evaluating the rooms as a whole and the buildings as a whole to see if we can get dehumidifiers in those rooms. If we're in situations where a particular dehumidifier, because there's different sizes of dehumidifiers and what amount of air they can push through. If we're in a situation where a certain type of dehumidifier is pulling too much amperage in a room, then we have the opportunity to purchase some smaller dehumidifiers that pull less amperage. So all of that work is going on right now. There's some studies being done by our civil engineer folks, and they're doing those assessments to make sure that we have the electricity grid that can handle them. But eventually the goal is, like I said, to get dehumidifiers in every single room.
Afternoon, ma'am. First Sergeant Smith with 106 Center Brigade. So I have a couple soldiers in building 272. And so on the weekend, we've had some HVAC outages. So the Mercy line goes to Lackland. And so they've been told it's not a priority. So what is the true procedure for when we receive that answer and you have a PFC and below that can't stay in that room and they have to come out of pocket to go to the hotel?
And then we have Kelly King here, but Richard, if you could help us with that, that's not the correct procedure. As Richard mentioned, whenever we hear HVAC, that's a life health issue, so that should go to the top of the list, and we should deal with it right there. So I apologize for your soldiers that have gotten that kind of service. And again, we do have the ability to put people in lodging. If you remember, we had that storm a couple of weeks ago, months ago now, and a portion I think was better went down for HVAC, and we were ready to move everybody into lodging. So please don't take no for an answer. I should have got my cards here, so you have my personal number. But I'll make sure that I get my information to you all in particular, so you have the ability to call me if you get kind of that feedback, okay? But with that, Richard, can you describe what's supposed to happen?
Yes, ma'am. So, there's an HVAC issue. So, if you're in Bear as a public party, there's two ways you can call something in. So let's say if you call customer service and you tell us an HVAC issue, then basically my on-call service guy is supposed to take that call and at that point say, it's an HVAC, it's a door, we have to dispatch somebody out to go and take a look at it. That is supposed to happen. So if that's not happening, I will have our board. So the other piece of it is also you should have the contact to our dorm managers, because it's a permanent party, so we have two avenues to make that contact. If you also don't see it from that perspective, then also we'll make sure that you have, I'll send out all the contact information, we'll post it out so where instead of calling my boss, you can call me. That way, because I'll make certain that you will get someone out there. So there should be two lines of defense. There should be my customer service organization, and in worst case is if you're a public party, it should be your door manager who basically works for you because you're my customer. If those two do not work, then I will give you a set of numbers that we will send out that you can contact us directly. That's not an issue. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Doesn't bother us.
Thank you.
Ma'am, gentlemen, Airman First Class Bailon reports as ordered. I just wanted to let you guys know that our MTLs are doing a great job of keeping us held to very high cleaning standards. We've done so much. Myself personally, I've bought a dehumidifier for the room, and we're seeing very little results, which is very discouraging. I've talked to other airmen who have graduated and moved on to see if operational is any different, and I was told that they don't have AC either. So again, this is very discouraging as a new upcoming airman who plans on going operational. I graduate in September, which, like I said, I was very excited for, until I heard that there was no AC there either. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that we've noticed that mold is growing in the closets especially, and underneath the sinks. As far as the closets are concerned, we are told that we need to keep them locked for security purposes because our personal items are in there. So it's very hard for it to get ventilated in the daytime where there's sunlight because we're told to lock them. And we're in class majority of the day, so there's very little light, and by the time we make it back to the dorms, it's pretty dark outside. Another question that I had was in regards to reimbursement. We've spent some money on dehumidifiers and fans and other things just trying to fight the mold. And we don't make very much money as A1Cs. So we were just kind of curious as to whether or not we would be reimbursed for those items because we can't take them with us, you know, to our next phases on the planes and things like that. The work orders that we are putting in, there is something that's being done about it. They are coming into our rooms and they're spraying with bleach and different things like that. However, within a few days, the mold is growing back. We've noticed it a lot on our lampshades as well, which are really old and rusted and should probably be thrown away anyways. And yeah, I think that was it. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you so much for your lots of questions there. So I really appreciate you coming forward. Can I ask what dorm you're in?
I am.
What building?
We're active duty and we're over near the active dorms.
What was that? Active? Okay. 1468? 1469, okay. Got it. Thank you. Thanks. So first of all, I would like to help with some of the maybe not easier questions with the reimbursement piece. I don't know if there's anything we can do, if you know if there's anything to do right now, but we can definitely look into that if we don't have the answer.
Just to parse it out a little bit, so something, when I talked about having to clean something before you can try and get that claimed, there's a piece of that. So for instance, if you go buy like stronger detergent or you know, get something dry cleaned that you wouldn't normally get dry cleaned, that could be reimbursable as part of your claim. In terms of reimbursement for dehumidifiers, currently I'm not aware of a mechanism, but I wouldn't say 100% no. I will do the research, I'll get a hard answer on it, but as of right now, I'm not familiar with the mechanism by which we can do that.
Okay, so we'll take that one for action, because there might be other ways we can get it through, like different private organizations or those kinds of things. We can get donations, if that's the case. But to your HVAC question, that's probably the more pressing one that we need to deal with. And so if we could get your room in particular, we can look at your room specifically, but I would imagine your room is like many others in that dorm. So we'd have to do a little bit deeper dive into what specifically is going on with your HVAC unit. Because I think it goes back to what Mr. Joniaux and I were talking about. Like, as long as that HVAC isn't working, you're right, it's going to come back. And that's my biggest concern as the commander here is if we can't fix some of these root causes, then we're going to always be fighting this problem for the rest of my career. As you come back as an instructor, we'll be dealing with this too. But that's not the goal. So I probably need to do a deeper dive into what's going on in your room in particular, and then apply some of those lessons down your hallway. But I don't know, Richard, if you have any research or anything off the top of your head about that dorm in particular.
This is one that we've seen across the entire Mensa campus, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force. And so those are actually newer facilities that were constructed, but consequently, I'll be candid, we can have a facility, it could be brand new. It's just like any vehicle, it could be a limit. I'm not going to say it's a limit, but it's pretty darn close. And it was not constructed, it was not designed properly, it was not constructed appropriately. So this is something that the design-wise we would not design it the way we did, because, so what you're seeing is a lot of closets, there's not a lot of airflow ventilation. And we have to have the right exhaust system that actually pulls that moisture out. And we see that consistently with those 5 facilities, that the HVAC system is just not properly designed, it's not working well. Those facilities are ones that we will look at doing a complete locating, redo, and doing completely different, where actually getting airflow out, getting that humidity out, and it was just not designed properly. It was done back at the time of the mechanic, it was done at that time with the mill of brass. specific things that we have to be concerned about. So those in these newer facilities, we do spend a lot of time in the Med-C campus dealing with the HVAC systems. That's why, man, you're not going to see a lot of those things. They'll continue to come back until we can basically get it done permanently. So hang in there with us. We'll try to get the dehumidifiers, the ceiling fans, all those things will help. It's not just one thing that's going to solve the problem. It's not going to be just an exhaust fan. That's just a portion of the solution. So it's going to be everything we're going to run will help mitigate. So that's what we're trying to look at, is trying to implement as many of those, of that list I showed, how many of those can I do to help minimize the situation? We're not going to eliminate it, but we have to minimize it. So we'll go back and take a look at it then.
If we could get your, I know we have a copy of your name, but not necessarily your room numbers. If we could get that before we leave, that'd be great. Thanks.
Mine was more of like a broader kind of. So us being like permanent party, we rely on the work orders for like HVAC and all that. So if those are supposed to be prioritized, is there a way to like guarantee it's gonna get prioritized? I know there's like a million people who live here, but like you say they get prioritized, but 8 months you're still living, sweating, dying. Like, it's not good to live like that, but you're being prioritized. That's still kind of like degrading, you know? Just like that.
That goes back to Mr. Joniaux's comment, trust but verify. So your trust is low in this case. So I apologize for that, and that's not the way we want you to live, first of all, nor do we want to have that kind of relationship with all of our residents in the dorms. We need to be able to trust our system. I will tell you, this has been a catalyst for change. So we've been changing over this past year. We've got new leadership in our civil engineering director. That's Mr. Trevino, was hired specifically for this reason, to get us on track and to focus on preventive maintenance, focus on keeping our word, like you said, trust but verify, and you being able to rely on us, honestly. So all I can say is, going forward, this is my promise. Hold me accountable. You've got access, your leadership has access, and I expect you to be a demanding customer, honestly. There's other things that have recently changed. So there's a system called, it doesn't matter what it's called TriRiga. It's a way to track work orders. It's going to be a lot more transparent, especially for your leadership, to be able to see where your work order is in the system. But at the end of the day, that's on us. And if we say it's a priority, we need to make it a priority.
So it goes down to what the gentleman said. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? How do we get that trust is that we deliver on what we say we're going to deliver on. Now, also understanding that not every work order is the same, so we do prioritize, right? So what's the priority? HVAC, money, mold, those are priorities. What do you mean? They get preference. So we have 3 different scales of work orders in terms of priorities. We have the emergencies, which means no kid had to go get it done within 24 hours. At urgents, which are typically about 5 to 7 days, and then routines, so typically it's 30 plus days, and I say that plus, because if it's something that's not going to impact, quite honestly, your room, your mission, your training, we do schedule those, but that's when we take a risk. Because it's not a matter if there's a little hole in the wall, we don't usually worry about it, this becomes a pest issue, we don't worry about it. We get to it eventually when we do an actual facility comp with that room, but we're going to focus on those things that are going to impact your ability to rest, do your mission, train, those types of things. Now, also that comes to mind is we do have old infrastructure. That's just a reality also. So that's not an excuse. That's just, we were being open about it, but I have to fix it. So it's not incumbent upon you to worry about it. It's incumbent upon me to go and fix that for you. What I'm going to need your help is continue to work with the board managers and identify those problems. And if they're not being fixed, then elevate it. Eventually, if it comes to us, I can assure you, we will have somebody out there to get it fixed. But don't wait a week, 2 weeks, 2 months before you have those types of issues. Because at the end of the day, the dorm managers, they're responsible to you. They have to support you. If that's not happening, you need to let me know, because I know what's happening. Because they work for me. Okay? So I have to build your trust back. And that's why I'm here.
Likewise, if your room is still, if you don't have any check that's operating, please let us know what your room number is. Or if it's one of those habitual down for maintenance, let us know that too, if you don't mind.
Mine was fine. My HVAC's fine, but like when I first arrived here like a year ago, the work order got put in,
Never was seen.
I'm actually his roommate, and I've been there for a year and a half, longer than that, stand up, and it was about 2 years total for the big down here. So, and there were multiple work orders put in by different roommates that moved in and out from that time, but never got addressed.
Well, I'm so sorry. Do you know the time frame of when it came back? When we were able to get it back on?
I believe it was like 3 months ago.
Okay. That's good. All right.
So you know what building that is? What building number again? 217. Barracks? Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Like I said, we've focused on this last year. We have some amazing civil engineers who are dedicated their entire lives to this craft. We just don't have enough of them, too. So that's another challenge that Mr. Joniaux and his team have gotten after, is hiring more and hiring quicker. So I won't go into all those details, but just needless to say, we have prioritized HVAC as one of our craftsmen that we have to hire more of. But like I said, we have men and women that have dedicated decades to HVAC, and we have the expertise. We just don't have enough to go around. And we're competing with San Antonio, honestly. If you look outside our gates, there's a lot of construction. There's cranes everywhere, and guess what? They have the same need. They need craftsmen, they need plumbers, electricians, HVAC, same guys and girls that we do. So we're trying to create an environment where they want to come and work, and they want to stay, and that's our challenge. But that's, like I said, that's one of the main reasons why the leadership team is working hard, is to get those folks on board and onboard them as quickly as we can and retain them.
Sergeant First Class Wiswell, Detachment Sergeant, HHD 56 in Battalion. I have 19 soldiers in 272, and out of those 19 soldiers, every time they put work, we do inspections every month, go through all the rooms, send up all the work orders. But there hasn't been any kind of tracking system for the work orders, so it's really hard to follow up on the other ones to see, or multiple work orders get put in for the same issue. It doesn't get resolved. They get half solutions. Right now, out of 19, I think I have 6 that have AC issues currently. The solution has been to give them the portable AC unit, which is very ineffective. Unless you point it right at you, that's the only part that's cool. Other ones has been the rooms have been in the low 80s. Low 80s during the day, and they said that's fine. I've personally worked with the barracks manager there, and I get told the same thing. Well, we gave them a portable unit, therefore it's good. You walk into the room, you can see the thermostat's at 78, 80, 82. So that's consistent. It's the same work orders all the time. Other ones, I had 3 issues with door locks. I know it sounds simple, but for female soldiers, I had a female soldier whose door would not lock. And then when the barracks manager went there, they demonstrated that it does lock if you slam the door like incredibly hard, obnoxiously. And I got told that was it. I had to fight to get them moved. And that's actually been ongoing, these issues. If there's just any way we get better visibility, I know the Tri-Riga system, which, again, getting everybody access to Tri-Riga so we can actually even see these things. But even when the soldiers call in a work order, they're not given a kind of reference number, anything. There should be some sort of tracking number that can be provided, so when we're calling on the work orders, we can reference previous work orders that have not been completed, or the multiple times it's been called in. So they have no tracking.
You're absolutely right. I 100% agree with you in terms of the work order system management. That is the goal, so that you'll have more transparency, and so will we, honestly. But same, can we get those, you said 19 rooms that have had, 6 that had?
It's 19, 13 currently have open work orders that have been open for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And that was a new time we called them in. That was after they...
It's a restart, right?
We restarted again, same calls, all the work orders in. 13 had open work orders currently. 6 of those have AC.
Okay. If you could come up either now or after, we can get your... Okay. Thank you.
Evening, ma'am. Corporal McDermott, 323rd Army Band. Are you able, it's probably too soon to say, but as far as the short-term mold remediation steps, the dehumidifiers, replacing the carpets, all that, is there any sort of projected completion date at this time?
So, great question. One of the challenges we're having right now is actually ordering that second set of, the third set of dehumidifiers. So I won't go into the details, but there's contracting laws about what countries we can order them from and how quickly we can get them here. So my vice commander and I are just talking about that today. So I can't tell you exactly, but as soon as we order them, it should take about 5 days to get here. So that's the dehumidifier piece. But all the other fixes that we're talking about, I'd have to be more specific about which dorm and what initiative we're actually discussing to give you a really good timeline. And if you have
we were looking at the Benner barracks.
The Benner barracks dorms. Richard, do you have a time frame for?
So Benner barracks is one of the first that we're going to do with the repurchasing of the dehumidifiers, man. That is one of the ones that we're going to hit right off the bat. So as soon as the dehumidifiers come in, that's going to be one of the ones that we're going to place out. That is on our priority list to be able to say we're going to go get them done. As soon as we get them awarded, then we'll put them in. Other than that, that's the only timeline that I actually have.
Thank you.
So for Fort Sam 272, because it is on our prioritization to get those types of the dehumidifiers, looking at those types of things, and that's one of our top priorities to go get done.
Good afternoon, Specialist Garcia for Building 257. I am allergic to smoke, and I'm not the only one that's out that has been diagnosed with it. When we brought it up to the building manager, he told us to get a mold test and check the vents, then bring him the results, and as well for us to get tested for allergies. Another thing, for the walls in the showers, they have water damage. Before in high school, I worked with my dad who has a construction company, and every time we had to remove the wall, water damage had more behind it. So it's on the walls, not just in the vents. A couple weeks ago, there was a spot clean for mold on a bathtub specifically. They sprayed bleach all over it. In the battles, they sprayed it on the vents itself, and it would just wipe down, and some of it was left throughout the walls. If you're spot cleaning, then you're killing the mold in that spot, but then the rest of the mold is still in the rest of the system. It's being spread all throughout. So that's pretty much it.
I missed the part about the mold allergy, but if you have any kind of allergy symptoms that you think are related to mold, you can come to any of the clinics on Joint Base San Antonio, and we can treat you for that. There's really good treatments, kind of medicines to take care of the symptoms, and then allergy can even desensitize you. So we can give you injections of dilute mold to make you resistant to it and less likely to have an allergy.
Yes, sir. On that note, I am going for the allergy test every week. Whenever I'm in my room, doctor said that my tinnitus is due to fluid being pushed in my eardrum. Whenever I'm in my room, tinnitus gets worse.
The tinnitus gets worse?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's another big word for, we have to come up with big words in medicine to charge all the money that we charge, at least on the outside. Tinnitus is ringing in one's ears, and it does have to do with fluid in your inner ears. But I'm not sure that we could say it's related necessarily to mold. Is that what your question is?
PCM and my allergies, it can be in set.
Yeah, so what mold can give you kind of cold-like symptoms, which might stuff up your nose and create symptoms that might cause ear symptoms, and it might be related to it. So anything we can do to reduce your head cold symptoms, like what I have in the slide there, that may or may not be related to mold, it could be just other allergies, that should reduce any ear symptoms that you have. But there are, unfortunately, a lot of things that cause ringing in the ear. So, I was exposed to a lot of loud jet noise, and so I have kind of bad hearing damage right now myself and ringing in my ears. And if you fire weapons a lot, or if you do that in your job, you got to make sure you wear hearing protection, because those are other things that could cause it. But again, here at Fort Sam, the home of Army medicine, and Brooke Army Medical Center with 1,700 Air Force medics and double that Army medics, we have all the experts. And if you're still having symptoms, then please come back and see us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I want to touch on one other option too, and I don't know if your leadership's here, but we could also look at moving your room, right? And maybe there's another room that's less causative to your allergies or to the ringing in your ears. There's also, yes ma'am.
I'm part of his leadership on his first line.
Sorry about that.
I'm part of his leadership on the first line. I'm Corporal Bordetsky. I live in the same barracks as him. No matter what room you move to, they have not cleaned the AC unit. We have talked to the building managers, Mr. Holbrook and Mr. Chen. They have admitted, since that building's been built that they're aware of, none of the AC ducts have been cleaned. I too has been dealing with issues, more so with a blocked ear. I could be gone for X amount of days because I was on a TDY for a month. Symptoms cleared up. Come back, starting to get them again. It happened back in December, is when I start noticing these symptoms. I go home for leave, I'm fine, I come back to the barracks, back again. I'm still in the process going through ENT, I'm going to allergy specialists, I'm still in the process of figuring out what's causing it. But that's the only thing I can think of is mold, and plus they admit to it, that they haven't been cleaned. And they have no intentions in cleaning it. I've been trying to follow up week after week, same response. Go hire a contractor, out of your own pocket, or if you want to get somebody else to clean it for you, we're not cleaning it.
I wouldn't expect you to clean.
That's the exact response that I've been getting over and over again.
Okay. And what was their dorm again?
We're the NCO barracks.
Which one, sorry?
I guess it's across.
257?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to take a look at that one, okay? And I can't guarantee duct cleaning. I know that's been something that we've talked about amongst ourselves. So let me take a look at it and see what might be going on in your dorm in particular. And I don't know, is there an option to move off base?
One other thing I wanted to mention besides moving off with the cleaning. This past week, I had to do a room inspection for my soldier, and also I reported they do spot cleaning. I think it has test positive, so they're coming in with a chemical light similar to bleach, cleaning just the spots where I think it tests positive, but they have not touched my room, and they have not touched his room. They only touched his tub, and only my vent that's above the tub, but did not touch my tub because I don't have any mold signs, which he does on his tub. And then my next question is, I've been living in that barracks for 2 years. Why is it that mainly the soldiers have to live in that barracks where I don't see any other branches where they have the option to live off base? Why does the Army have to stay in there until we get E5 or the barracks across the street, air conditioning breaks down, then they move us?
Okay, that's a great question, and I would be honest, I don't know the answer to that question, so I have to do some research to find out specifically why there's only an Army in that dorm and why you're not allowed to move off the base. Do you have any background in that?
So I just broad spectrum. I know Sergeant Major McKay has kind of a deeper dive answer on the Army side. Broad spectrum. Each of the services have different requirements for dorm residency. And the Air Force has a different dorm requirement than the Army. Our requirement is 3 years, E4 and below. And quite honestly, we have kind of liberal rules as far as that requirement goes, and it really goes back to leadership, to the leadership of the member, the unit leadership. So we've, at Lackland, as a matter of fact, just as kind of we're working through the dorm issues at Lackland, we've been pretty liberal with folks that we've allowed to have BAH, with the unit leadership that's come online and said, hey, I'd prefer to have my folks downtown. We're okay with that, and so we've done that. So on the Army side, I know there's a different requirement. I think your regulation is E5 and below.
Right. Chief, there's no regulation that says E5 and below, and I brought this up with, not to throw the Army under the bus, but I brought this up with the Army for quite some time, since I've been in for 2 years, to lower that requirement. The Army leadership has decided over and over again that they do not want E4s living off the installation. They want the E4s retained or to stay on the installation. Now is the time of change, that we need to relook at that as Army leadership. And so I challenge the Army soldier, if you know that option is there, once we hit a certain utilization rate, I believe it's 94%, that you have that option to be on that order of merit list to move off the installation. But the onus is also on the soldier, that once we give you that opportunity, that you conduct yourself appropriately off the installation. But there's no reason why we can't match the same thing with the Air Force or any other civil service. No reason whatsoever. And I think we need to put these things back on the
Let me just address briefly the issue of the ductwork. And so we do have occupational health specialists at Lackland and here at Fort Sam. And so, like I mentioned earlier, there's mold out in the air right now, spores. And there's probably some mold spores in the ductwork. And so there are some people that, even if there's no mold in your home, when you go outside and the mold count is really high, it triggers a flare of mold allergies. And sometimes we have to even change the medications for that. But if you're very sensitive, and so even though all the mold is cleaned out of your room, but the air blows in and it seems like it's making it worse, then I think you need to be evaluated. You need to see occupational health, and there are some things that we can do about that. What Mr. Trevino is going to do is to try to make the condition, as the civil engineer facility is going to try to make the conditions within the rooms less likely for any mold that happens to be in the air outside, which comes in the building, or maybe there's some in the ductwork that's been not clean for 40 years. But from that causing growth in the room, and we do that by fixing a leak, removing carpet that might have had mold in it, and controlling the humidity. So those of you that are going to be issued a dehumidifier, it only works if it's on when the humidity is really high, and that's going to be from probably about the end of March to probably about mid-October. And then we're going to have the season working for us. The air is drier in the winter, and when we go on to heating, it tends to dry out the air. So for those of you that they've taken it away and you can't see it, but you're still having symptoms, we do have things we can do for you. And if occupational health said, hey, your room is causing this problem, that would help move you to a different place.
Again, thank you everybody for coming here, and we really appreciate your candid feedback and your honest questions.
It's science. I just wanted to say thank thank you again for coming tonight. Most importantly, thank you for your patience as we work through this challenge as a team of JBSA San Antonio, along with your leadership and all of you being part of that solution. I do want to thank the folks that came up and asked their questions and gave us their concerns. We take it very seriously. I know we're taking down your names, taking down your room numbers so we can address your issues very specifically. But if there's folks that didn't come up and you want to come up afterwards and give us your issue or highlight your room in particular that you want us to look at, please do. This is a great opportunity for us to do some targeted remediation right to your room. And to our permanent party, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to say thank you for being here tonight. You are the heart and soul of what's going on here at JBSA San Antonio. You're here for multiple years, and we really do want to make sure that your rooms are improving, and that you can trust in our system and trust in us again. So with that, thanks again. Thanks to the leadership here, and this is a chunk of your day too. But really to the residents, thank you. We're grateful for your support, and we look forward to continuing to work together to solve the challenges that we face in our